staying on top of that for you. But I also will be in court tomorrow looking to continue to collect the very latest for you and everyone back at home right now in Moscow as we work through this process. Reporting live in Pennsylvania, I'm Bradley Warren, Nonstop Local.
All right, Bradley, before you go here, I understand, too, you've been able to speak with the people guarding Kohberger right now in that jailhouse behind you. What are they telling you right now?
Yeah, well, I spoke with one yesterday, one of the guards. I spoke to a couple of the guards, to be honest with you, and one of them told me that he's curled up in a ball facing the wall and he's not saying anything at all. So that's the current status of him. I haven't heard anything since that conversation took place yesterday, but that gives you a little bit of insight as to how he's handling all of this.
All right, Bradley, thank you. Now, with
Bradley Warren, who's been in Pennsylvania getting a firsthand look at the area where Kohberger was raised and ultimately arrested.
Yeah, hey Stephanie, good evening. Well, I'm joining you live right now from Strasburg, Pennsylvania. And if you take a look behind me, you'll see what's the beginnings of the media circus that will be unfolding here tomorrow as we get ready to see Bryan Kohberger live for the very first time since those arrests were actually made. We know he'll appear in front of a judge by the name of Maggie Worthington. This at 3:30 Eastern, 12:30 Pacific. And we've been slowly starting to piece together the puzzle pieces as to the identity of who this man is. And we've learned a little more today that we're going to share with you right now. Big thing, Corey and Kalai, that I'll share with you before we send it back over to the desk is just how big this space is. So we moved through 7, maybe 8 states, depending on the route if he drove. There's a lot of different places now that police have to investigate to pick up all the pieces of this puzzle in this crime. Did he stop in Montana? Did he stop in Illinois? Was there a stop in Chicago? Or did he fly? And if he flew, how was he able to get to an airport? This is the New York Post right now. This is the newspaper that you can get at the grocery store here. They're on the cover. The 4 students who have died and the person who's connected right now to this murder and the charges. Now, our sister
were not allowed into the courtroom, but Nonstop Local's Bradley Warren was. He is live with us from Strasburg, Pennsylvania tonight. And Bradley, a very busy day.
Very busy day indeed, Corey. I do want to just let you know I was speaking with someone who's familiar with the whereabouts of Bryan Kohberger, and we do know at this moment in time he's still in the state of Pennsylvania. But I was in court, and I want to sort of give you the play-by-play, if you will, of what happened. When Bryan first walked into the courtroom, he made eye contact with his parents. He nodded his head at them, looked almost relieved to see them. Eventually, he sat down at the bench, and he was represented by the public defender. But during the course of that representation, he continued to turn back and look at his parents, looking at his mom, looking at his dad. At one point, he even mouthed what we believe is, "I love you," to his mother. Now, at a certain point, the judge read the charges, the 4 counts of first-degree murder and that felony burglary charge, and then his mom broke into tears. We do know that an officer actually handed his mom a tissue. You could hear her crying. You could also see his grandmother crying as well, and the family was embracing as this continued to unfold in front of us. One thing that I do want to note was his demeanor. He seemed very calm, but he also didn't seem intimidated by what was going on. He answered in yes-no answers to the judge when he was addressed. He told the judge that he understood what was going on, and he didn't seem intimidated when speaking to the judge. He seemed comfortable in the courtroom, almost as if he knew what was going on. He addressed the questions the judge gave him, and then once that was done, he got up and walked out of the courtroom, turning back one final time and mouthing something to his mother that we could not tell. But he continued to try to make contact with his family throughout the course of the hearing. Now, switching gears, that's what took place inside the courthouse immediately following that. Moscow police have been watching this case very closely, and we got a little bit of an update about their involvement with Pennsylvania State Police pertaining to that arrest that took place on Friday. I want you to take a listen to what State Police said about their involvement with Moscow and how they ultimately came to make that arrest.
Bradley Warren joins us live in Pennsylvania. Bradley, you got on a plane Friday shortly after we learned of his arrest. What has happened since then?
Morgan, a lot's happened, and I should note I appreciate all the work you've been doing behind the scenes as well, keeping us informed on your end as well. But want to let you know what we can tell you right now out of Pennsylvania. So I'm here at the jailhouse this morning, and we were able to learn that the FBI had been monitoring Bryan Kohberger for close to 4 days before that arrest was made. He now sits in a cell behind me. He was originally at his parents' home for Christmas vacation, which is in a gated community here in the Poconos, and he made his way here via that white Hyundai Elantra that police had been searching for. We do know that his dad flew back out to our area and then drove home with him. Late yesterday, his family released a statement saying that they have been fully cooperative with police and they will continue to support and love their son. They say they would like the judicial process to play out, and at this moment in time, they're going to promote the presumption of innocence until proven otherwise. On Saturday, we did learn that Brian plans on waiving his extradition. That means that he will be coming back to the state of Idaho. I have confirmed with the Pennsylvania court system that there still will be a procedural hearing that will take place on Tuesday. That will be the first time that we do see him. Now, the big question many people have been asking, after that hearing takes place on Tuesday, how is it going to unfold and when will he be back in Latah County? Well, we know it will roughly be 72 hours or could be within 72 hours that he does in fact leave Pennsylvania and ends up back in Moscow, Idaho. And we do know right now that the public defender who's representing him is calling for a psych evaluation before proceedings actually begin. So we'll stay on top of all of this, Morgan. I wanted to bring you that update from Pennsylvania. For now, reporting live in Pennsylvania, I'm Bradley Warren, Nonstop Local.
Bradley, you kind of hinted to it there. They're asking for a psych evaluation, a lot of big decisions to come for him. How is his mental state? Has he said it? Has his defender said anything about that?
Well, Morgan, what I'll share with you is I was talking to a couple of prison guards who have been in the jailhouse protecting him, standing outside of his cell, and I said in passing as they were leaving, have you seen him? Have you talked to him? And they said they have spoke to him. He came in, obviously, on Friday. He's been on the floor, facing towards the wall in that suicide vest ever since he got here, and there's been very minimal communication from him. So that's currently how he's acting inside the jailhouse behind me.
Okay, Bradley Warren, they're live in Pennsylvania for us. Thank you.
I want to take you to Pennsylvania, where Kohberger remains tonight in jail. Nonstop Local's Bradley Warren in Stroudsburg for us tonight. Bradley, a brief but meaningful court appearance.
Very brief, roughly taking 25 minutes in total, Sean. He walked in, he nodded to his parents throughout the course of the hearing. He tried to communicate with his parents, at one point mouthing, "I love you." But when the judge read those 4 counts that he'd been charged of first-degree murder, you could hear the tears from his mother. The hearing itself wrapping up pretty quickly. Kohberger speaking confidently, ultimately having confidence, acting as though he wasn't intimidated by what was going on, seeming as though he knew exactly what was going on and how to proceed. One thing we did learn today, outside of this hearing, was some new information about the cooperation that Moscow Police Department actually had from Pennsylvania State Police and the decision that ultimately led to them making that arrest. I want you to take a listen to what the state police said in relation to their work with Moscow PD.
You look at Moscow Police Department, 38 sworn, 19,000 leads. The video evidence that they had to develop in order to put that out, all public source information. But when you talk about the service of a high-risk warrant for someone who's committed or alleged to have committed 4 homicides, there's nothing routine about that. And all of those tactical steps that were taken were in conjunction with the best efforts of the authorities, local, state, and federal, both in Idaho and here, to ensure that we could do it safely and to ensure that we could get him into custody.
We know that they geared up Thursday night and then ultimately made that arrest Friday morning. I was just speaking with someone familiar with the situation, and it does sound like Brian Kohberger still is in the state of Pennsylvania, meaning that extradition process has not yet begun. But there's a window of about 10 days, as you were saying, Sean, in which he needs to be returned to the gem state. Reporting live in Pennsylvania, I'm Bradley Warren, Nonstop Local.
Bradley, stay with us here. Of course, this case capturing the attention not only of the country, well beyond that. We heard directly from Moscow Police Chief James Fry saying he's received emails from all over the world, and they're in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, really a microcosm of the international interest this case has garnered. Talk for a second about the media and the press there to cover this story from across the world. You did send some video earlier.
Yeah, Sean, and if you real quickly look over my shoulder, what you're going to see here is the CNN, the Fox News, and the News Nation tent. Those are just three of the big players that have been here throughout the course of the last couple of days. There was, I would say, roughly 200 people in court with me today, maybe 175. The bulk of those people were members of the press. But, Sean, before I send it back to you, one thing I do really want to note, the people of this community have come up to me in droves once they found out where I'm from, and they have continuously passed their condolences and support back to the people of Moscow and want the people to know that they're in their thoughts and prayers.
That's much appreciated. All right, Bradley, thank you. Now,
today, the big breaking news out of Pennsylvania is the fact that the family of Brian Kohberger has released a statement. Brian Kohberger currently sits in the jail behind me, and I want to share that statement with you. They say they're going to let the legal process unfold. They say, as a family, they will continue to show love and support for their son and brother, and that they have fully cooperated with law enforcement agencies in an attempt to seek and promote the truth and the presumption of innocence rather than make judgments on unknown facts. They say that they are currently letting the legal process do its job, and they are hopeful that people will respect their privacy in this matter, while also sending condolences to the family who is suffering losses. Now, one thing that we have been getting asked time and time again, are we certain the arrest that was made here in Pennsylvania is the correct one in connection to the murders in Idaho? Well, the police chief in Moscow shed a little bit of light on this arrest. Take a listen.
Are there any other suspects, or are you 100% certain this is your guy?
I am certain this is our guy.
No doubts?
No doubts.
Now, there are still a lot of pieces of the puzzle that need to be put together. Questions have been raised about his career and his research leading up to his time at Washington State University.
Now we know who. So now we're going to learn everything we can about this individual. That's why we're still asking for people, if you know him, to call us. If you've known him in the past, call us. Any piece of information may be valuable to us. We just don't know yet. And once we get that information, then we can put it together.
For the last 47 days, our community has been rocked. Our sense of security has been taken from us. Our quiet college towns have been put on the front page of newspapers and networks across the world. Not only are we relieved, but truth be told, emotions are still running their course. And that's very true for the department and the head of the department, who's working to bring justice for the families and those 4 students who died.
Raised my family here. Went to the university, got 2 degrees at the University of Idaho. I think it's personal for a lot of us. We care about our community. We care about the University of Idaho. We love, we're Vandals. And when you're in a community like this and someone's hurt, we all hurt.
The way it sits right now, Brian Kohberger is currently sitting in a jail cell in the jailhouse behind me. I learned today from the public defender's office that they are requesting a mental evaluation be done of their client before proceedings begin. We'll stay on top of this and continue to bring you the very latest. You can read the full statement from the family on our website, nonstoplocal.com. But for now, reporting in Pennsylvania, I'm Bradley Warren. Nonstop Local.
But we begin tonight with Bradley Warren, who is in Pennsylvania for us tonight. And Bradley, Kohberger has been in jail since Friday. What do we know about his time there?
Yeah, Stephanie, well, I've spent a lot of time outside of the jail doing reports over the course of the last couple of days. And in that time, there's been shift changes that take place. So I've been able to talk to a lot of the officers. I've spoken to several of them who are actually guarding that jail cell that he's in. And the last time I was able to speak to one of the officers, this was a day ago, so I want to preface that the situation might have changed. But the last time I heard about his condition inside the jail, what they were telling me was he was sitting on the ground facing the wall, and he was talking to nobody. He was not interested in speaking to anyone. And some of the guards even told me they've had high-profile cases in that jail before with people who had similar charges, and they were very talkative, and they were trying to become friendly with the police officers. And they said they sort of expected that might have been the case with this situation, telling me, though, that's absolutely not the case, and he's keeping to himself.
This case has garnered international attention. Media from across the U.S. and even the world how is the community there in Pennsylvania reacting to being thrust into the spotlight?
Yeah, Steph, I've got a couple of pictures, and we'll put those up on the screen for you to take a look at that show you where I'm at right now. So the last time I've seen anything similar to this when it comes to media attention would be when I was covering a presidential primary, when you had all of the candidates scattered across the country traveling. That's the level of media attention this is gaining right now, and that is coming into this small town here in Pennsylvania. Where I'm standing right now is outside the courthouse, and there are 4 tents up right here with satellite trucks, and they're all waiting for that moment tomorrow when we get to go inside the courtroom. And one thing that's important to note, Stephanie, is we're actually not going to be able to take our cameras inside the courtroom. They're very strict here in Pennsylvania about what you can and can't do inside a courtroom. So we've got a lot of media attention. I was just talking to Fox News, who's right next to me, and they said they've actually hired a sketch artist who can go in there and sketch because we're not allowed to take pictures. So it's going to be a day tomorrow. There's a lot of media attention here, and the people here are telling me they're frustrated that their quiet town in the Poconos are now on the map for something like this.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Bradley, for keeping an eye out for us. We'll, of course, be talking with you as well tomorrow, as Kohberger is set to be back